Let's make some miniature plants out of paper. And welcome to my channel, Notorious Crafts. In this video, I'll show you two different methods of making these potted plants. I designed and created this free printable template for you. The link for it is down below in the description. This template includes different size leaves as well as a template for creating the pot. The first method that I'm going to show you is just using regular white computer paper to create the leaves and the pot of the plants. I'm using a paper cutter to cut out nice straight lines for the pot. I'm going to use some of these paper quilling tools to help me shape the pot. I'm grabbing the end of the paper using this quilling tool. There's just a little slot to be able to insert the paper, and then all I'm doing is just twisting the paper all around the quilling tool. You can still do this without the quilling tool. You can do this around a pen or pencil, anything that will get you a nice, smooth, round shape. Once I'm done wrapping the paper around, I'm just going to let it go and unravel. It'll be important to keep some of that space in between each row of paper since that is where we will insert the leaves. I'm adding a little bit of glue to the edge of the paper and then I'll press it up against the rest of the roll. And then I'll hold it down into place for about a minute until the glue sets. Now that the glue is dry, I'm going to paint my pot brown with some paint. I realized I forgot to add the rim of the pot before painting it, so I'm going to have to add it after the paint dries. So I'm going to use my quilling tool to create a nice curve to the paper. I'm adding some glue using a toothpick, and then I'm going to attach it to the very top of my pot. And then I'm going to continue adding a little bit more glue at a time and then continue to wrap it around my pot. It is better to do this step before you paint the pot so that your glue isn't sticking directly to the paint, which can chip off over time. But I forgot to do that step, so that's why I'm doing this a little bit out of order. I'm wrapping this trim around multiple times so that we can create a nice thickness to it. I let the glue fully dry, and then now I am painting it using the same paint that I had painted the rest of the pot. I first tried painting the leaves before I cut them, but then I realized I wouldn't be able to see the lines and it would be much harder to cut them out. So I instead switched to cutting out the leaves individually before painting them. So I went ahead and just cut out all the leaves individually one at a time. It's okay if some of the printer ink of the outline still shows after you cut it. It will get painted over, so in the end you won't be able to see if some of the outline remains. I grabbed a few of the leaf strips and put them on top of a scrap piece of paper that remained from the cutout, and then used some green paint to paint over each of the leaves individually. Once the paint dries, you will want to paint the other side of the leaf so that both sides are nice and green. I added a little bit of yellow paint while painting each of the leaves green, and this gives the leaves a little bit more dimension and so that they don't look just flat green. Real plants have a little bit of yellow in them, and each of the leaves are a little bit different, so this will also give my miniature plants a realistic look. I'm going to let each of the leaves dry before you place them on a surface. I placed these on my glass mat while the paint was wet, and the paint ended up peeling off it when it dried. Now I'm cutting my leaves in half, and this will also increase the number of leaves that I have. Now I can start inserting the leaves inside of the pot. I'm adding a little bit of curve to them, and you can also do that step at the very end, but each of the leaves will go inside one of the layers of paper, which is why it was important to make sure that the inside was nice and curled. I'm adding some glue to where the leaves are going to go, and then I'll insert the leaves, and once it dries, the leaves will be secure in place. I started off using the biggest leaves first, since that is how plants grow. The bigger leaves are on the outer part, and then the smaller, newest ones are on the inner part. I found that it was easier to add glue to the leaf and then inserting it into the pot. I used a toothpick to spread around the glue to make it really nice and even. I also found it to be very helpful to have a toothpick to help me spread around the leaves once they were inserted inside one of the paper layers, since it was hard to get my finger inside. Now I'm adding the smallest leaves to the innermost part of the pot. After all the glue dried and the leaves are secured in place, I rolled each of the leaves, and you can do this with anything, a pen or pencil, any kind of tool you have that is perfectly curved. And here's how this plant turned out. Next, I'm going to make the same plant, but using some green construction paper. I had some nice green construction paper that I thought would be a nice plant color, and placed it inside of my printer, and then I used the plant printable template that I created and then just printed it out on this green paper. I used some colored pencils to color on top of the leaf to give it some more dimension and so that the plant won't look flat or cartoonish. For the pot, I'm going to use this light brown tan colored construction paper, and then I'm going to roll it the same exact way as I did the very first pot that I made. I am adding small amounts of glue on the inside flap and then pressing it against the rest of the rolled paper. Now I'm cutting each of the leaves in half, otherwise they would be way too long inside of the pot that I made. I'm adding a little bit of glue to the very end of the leaf and then inserting it on the inside of the pot. I want the biggest leaves to be closest to the outside of the pot. I'm going to continue that same process, starting off with the largest leaves first, then I'll go to the medium-sized ones, and then at the very end I'll insert the smallest leaves towards the center of the pot. Some of the glue has dried and the leaves are more secured in place. I am adding some curve to the leaves. That way it'll be easier to insert some more leaves and they'll be out of the way. Now I'm adding the most smallest leaves on the very center of the pot. This will also help cover up some of that construction paper and you won't be able to see it from the outside. The first pot that I made won't stay perfectly flat and it keeps rolling around, so I'm going to trim some of the excess paper that's on the very bottom. I'm using a pair of scissors and I'm just trimming off that extra paper at the bottom that's causing my pot not to lay flat. Here's the final result of both of the plants that I made. Let me know down below in the comments which one you like better. The one on the left is the one that I used the white printer paper and painted over, and the one on the right is using green construction paper. I prefer the one that's on the left side. I think it looks the most realistic. The one on the right looks more cartoonish and flat and 2D. I think that painting the leaves gave it a lot of dimension. But would love to hear what you guys think. Remember to download your free plant template. The link is down below in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel.